What should Grand Theft Auto's protagonist background be moving forward? This is a question that came to mind when I recently went back to play Grand Theft Auto 4. In the opening mission when Nico arrives at his cousin Roman's house, you can hear the level of immense disappointment in his cousin's living conditions.
It's been too long.
This is the mansion?
Just a temporary place. The mansion is coming, cousin. That's the dream. Follow me.
Now, over the years that Grand Theft Auto has been running as a series, we've had a variety of protagonists with various backgrounds. Gang members trying to get rich and make it out of the slums, people getting out of prison after serving a lengthy sentence, only to return to the life of crime, or reaching retirement for said life of crime and witness protection. Besides the prominent level of quality Rockstar and the Grand Theft Auto series has accumulated for itself over the years, the timing of each one of these games' debut contributes something immensely special. While they're all known for expertly parodying American culture and our society's perspective at large, a lot of the stories of the characters and how they are portrayed received help from the time and place technology was in when the games first came out. As an example, Vice City and the story of Tommy Vercetti is iconic and will always be memorable. However, if you look back at the gaming industry, not only was Grand Theft Auto specifically not known for its engaging protagonists, they didn't even have a voice at that point in time, and less known for the compelling narrative, but the gaming industry at large wasn't familiar with storytelling to the same caliber that we are at now. A street-level thug trying to find their own rags to riches story nowadays, no matter how well planned and how thought out it is, I don't think it's going to be compelling these days as it would have been back in the early 2000s. And with Rockstar having so many subsequent Grand Theft Auto installments and of course Red Dead Redemption games taking off and being recognized for its own high quality of storytelling, it begs the question of what new angles will Rockstar pursue with newer protagonists moving forward. Not every game, not every story has to show someone being dirt poor, slinging drugs, stealing cars, and being the muscle man for someone much more powerful than them, only to find some way to screw over their previous mentor. Grand Theft Auto 5 showed how interesting and in some ways relatable a character like Michael can be. We don't know him, we don't experience him in his knuckleheaded youth, stricken by poverty, ready to do any and everything possible to get the nicest cars, the most beautiful of women, the most flashiest of jewelry. No, alternatively, he's a middle-aged man who's lived a particular life. He's a middle-aged man who's acquired a deep level of maturity, regret, and insight, as many do with old age. I mean, we may not all be in witness protection or have an insanely lucrative life full of crime and get ridiculously luckier by getting out of said dangerous life, being granted the luxury of settling down in a mansion with our families, but it is understandable how someone who's in retirement is bored out of their mind, no longer wanted by important people in their life. And because you're bored and because people around you that you would consider important don't have that same level of respect, those could be fantastic reasons of chasing after the high that the previous life you lived starts calling you back, of not being bored, of not being useless. Elements that are all relatable that can easily push the most logical of people back into the reckless habits of their youth. Rockstar's also very well known for their elaborate Easter eggs and nods to pop culture, taking some sort of inspiration. I can see them building a character similar to Walter White in the context of an older man. Someone who didn't grow up in a hostile environment, someone who's completely foreign to the criminal lifestyle and is only willing to betray their morals, values, and everything they stand for in order to do what they have to do to take care of the people they love. They aren't doing it for themselves, but strictly for the ones that count on them. In a way, that's why I believe the story of Niko Bellic is so unique. On the surface, yes, he's an immigrant coming to the United States that has no money and is trying to get on his feet. Meanwhile, he must juggle all this other shit. His cousin is in deep with loan sharks. He's constantly reminded of his past in the form of looking after a man who he's believed betrayed him so many years ago, is hiding out in Liberty City. And on top of that, you have one of the most powerful men in Eastern Europe, a former employer of his, who mistakenly believes Nico owes money to him, leading to him and his cousin constantly being hunted down and messed with. The game's always complimented for its darker, more mature tone, which is phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but if it wasn't for this unique twist of Nico being an immigrant and having to focus on his cousin's well-being and making sure his cousins are not getting into trouble or causing problems for him or himself, I think the game's story would have easily felt much more in line with something of Franklin or CJ's story, not as unique. Just the run-of-the-mill rags to riches story. They're people in unfortunate circumstances, familiar with how to get their hands dirty, not a stranger to the law, ready and willing to do anything possible to get out of their current situation. Nico has a very unique angle that works incredibly well. I also think Michael's story works very well, and as much as I love Trevor much more than Franklin or even Michael, and I know some people love Franklin, But out of the trio, Michael's story and background would be infinitely more interesting and almost more engaging than anything Trevor would have. I know Grand Theft Auto 6 is rumored to have, two twins or a boyfriend-girlfriend type of situation. That's definitely unique. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mean to make it sound like, we've seen this before, because we obviously haven't, but I'm talking about a completely different angle. Going back to hearing Nico's disappointment and how Roman is living, it got me thinking about how interesting an approach from the other side would be. It could be much more ambitious than any of us can even imagine. Like, imagine starting the game already as a kingpin and actually formatting it similar to Red Dead Redemption 2 and that game's chapters. Chapter 1 to 2 and maybe 3, cops are on your payroll. Drugs, women, a prize wife, a happy family. Maybe the protagonist has a secret life his family doesn't know about. You're on top of the world. You own everything. You own the entire city. You can do any and everything. Maybe there's a certain section or area within the city that you and your goons can't go into, because then now you're crossing boundaries or crossing lines, and you're running the risk of starting a drug war right there in the streets. But for the most part, the city, or at least these districts, are yours. Then chapters 3 to 4, you see it slowly fall apart with the IAA and FIB starting to seize your assets. Maybe in the previous chapters you heard inklings and rumors of how your organization's been infiltrated. You might have a rat and you ignored it, and now in chapters 3 and 4, everything is being seized. All your stuff are being raided almost simultaneously. Top members of the organization, criminal and legal, are starting to get arrested, and everyone is scattering to save their own skin. Chapter 5, you're on the run, with 6, and maybe even, if the game has an epilogue, being completely devoted to trying to rebuild everything you lost. Locating secret drugs, money, or weapon stashes. Utilizing all of these stashes of yours to hit your longtime rivals, taking over well-known hotspots of theirs that are used for soliciting all kinds of illegal activity, from drugs, prostitution, robbery, anything else you can think of, and using that as a way to establish the foundation of your new criminal empire. It could also be a chance to flip the classic revenge story on its side. Rockstar could frame it where a couple, or maybe even one, of your criminal rivalries started working with the FIB or IAA, striking some type of official deal, or working with a corrupt official as a means to take you down and allow the rival gang to take over your territory, giving them the opportunity to capitalize on the power vacuum your absence would create. Maybe they decide to work with a envious colleague or even a relative, like a son or daughter. Perhaps your son wants your throne and will do anything and everything possible to take it from you, even if that means their mother or father being institutionalized for the rest of their life. I'm not saying it's gotta be an incredibly unique or different story. It doesn't have to be a take that we've never heard of. Stories have been repeated for as long as God knows when. All I'm simply saying is, I don't feel like they can keep repeating the rags to riches story. And with Grand Theft Auto 5 having a character like Michael, for instance, being almost the complete opposite of that, I think Rockstar can really spice it up a little bit. Of course, they gotta keep, in my opinion anyways, the foundation of the series. Like, I know there's been rumors of taking Grand Theft Auto to London or other countries. To me, the essence of Grand Theft Auto has been always parodying American culture, so I personally would say still keep it within the United States. It just doesn't have to be the constant criminal gang mentality. It would be nice to see, something completely opposite. I'm not saying they have to omit any of the criminal activity. I'm saying they should expand on it much more, but it would be much more interesting to see it from, say, a corrupt security guard or a corrupt IAA or FIB agent, or even a regular man just down on his luck. And like I was saying earlier, kind of taking a little bit of inspiration from Walter White, where he's sick, he's trying to look out for his family. I think that's more in lines with Red Dead Redemption more than anything else, but after just hearing Nico say that, it was like, man, every protagonist of this series is almost their main thing to get rich. While it would be fantastic to be able to do whatever you want, ultimately, freedom, the money, of course, all the criminal activities that dictates Grand Theft Auto game, I would just love to see that not be what the character is completely engrossed in. There's other things, other parts to his character, some complexity. And maybe he's not just trying to be rich. Maybe he's looking out for somebody else. That's ultimately all I was saying. There shouldn't be any hindrance on the criminal activity at large. I just want to see a different take. And with that being said, what would you want to see? What do you think would be the most interesting approach for Rockstar to take in terms of the character, their background, the position that they're in, and what would be the nice motive or driving force that you would want to see from them that isn't just, hey, let's get rich? I want to hear from you down in the comment section.